broadcasting from the Unshackled Studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.
Hello everybody and welcome to this week's WilmsFront Snapshot news show, coming to you on this Tuesday, the 5th of May 2026. We are live on the WilmsFront YouTube channel. Hello to everyone in the live chat. It is 8 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where it is State Budget Day, where the Allan Government and the Treasurer, Jacqueline Symes, have spruiked a $700 million operating surplus for this 2025-26 financial year, and a downgraded operating surplus for next year from 1.9 billion to 1 billion as it splurges the money on pre-election bribes in a desperate bid to win a fourth term. Now, why is it called an operating surplus? Well, that's because capital and infrastructure spending, like the Allan Government signature big build, the big blowout, which there is at least $15 billion that extra that has been spent on corrupt deals. So that's not included in these budget figures, hence why I've titled this show Number Fudging, because they're fudging the books. It's more a fudget instead of a budget. And because of this, Victoria's net debt will rise to 199 billion by the end of the decade, and the interest expense bill will be greater than 11 billion per year by then. Extra pre-election spending that was already announced is the free public transport until the end of May, or as the Footscray train station had, free travel until, two L's at the end of until, Sunday 31st off, not of, two F's, off May across Victoria. And that's not a big V for Victoria, that's a small V. Now, how did that get put up on there? Who wrote it? Did somebody double check it? Because that is a terrible spelling, if I may use a mispronunciation of myself. I hope that it's been corrected now, but this photo will be forever. And then there's going to be half public transport fares until the end of this year. Now, there will also be a $76 million plan for the electrification of the Melton line in Melbourne's west, which still runs on diesel V lines, which obviously is using up precious diesel, and is an added factor why you're smelling so much fumes at Southern Cross Station, if you've ever been there. And there'll be an extra $2.5 to $4 billion for the suburban rail loop in the federal budget next week. That has been confirmed. Jacinta Allan has long said she wants the federal government to contribute a third of its $35 billion cost. Though, ride Melbourne's train network at your own risk, as you may have the misfortune of sharing a carriage with a knife-wielding, drug-addicted maniac, as local comedian Lewis Spears had to deal with last Thursday.
I'm having a terrible day, and it's Jacinta Allan's fault. Hey, buddy. All right, that cheered me up a little bit. But anyway, I'm having a terrible day thanks to Jacinta Allan, because I have, for about the 10th time this month, had to share a train carriage with a drug-addled lunatic. But this time, the guy got on the train and he was brandishing 2 knives. This lunatic gets on the fucking train, he's got 2 knives in his hands, he's sharpening them, he's ranting and raving, he's playing music, he's off his head's on drugs. There's no cops, there are no PSOs anymore at the train station because they moved them to shopping centres for some reason, and then didn't replace those people with PSOs at the train station, despite the fact that violence at train stations is increasing at an insane rate. So I have to take it upon myself to get all of the women off the carriage, onto the next carriage, press the emergency button, tell everyone that there's a man with a knife on the train. Everyone's freaked out. Thank God there was an off-duty police officer on his way to work. Me and him have to go into the carriage with the guy with the knife to make sure that he doesn't enter the fucking carriage with all the women and children on it. And every time I take the fucking train now, I see some drug-addled lunatic, someone in desperate need of psychiatric care or getting knocked out, and it's getting worse. And PSOs are nowhere to be seen. Right now, there's no PSOs here. So I gotta go home now, and if shit kicks off, I'm on my own. We had to prevent this guy from getting from one carriage that was empty into the one with all the women and children, and we had to sit there for over 20 minutes waiting for police officers to show up because there's no PSOs. So we're sitting at a station that should have PSOs, sitting on our hands and praying to God that this guy doesn't start stabbing. And it was very scary, and it's fucking ruined my day, and it's made me very angry. And people could have died, man. So Jacinta Allan, if you're watching this, the situation on the ground is fucked. We need PSOs at every single train station. Put them back. I am still having a terrible day, and it is still Jacinta Allan's fault. Remember the knife-wielding maniac that got on my train the other day? Well, it made the news. Check this out. Comedian helps passengers escape man with knives on Melbourne train ordeal. Shout out Heath, he did some real research. He reached out to the police and said, what happened with this guy? Did he get arrested? Did he get fined? What happened? Here's what the police said. They said he was spoken to by police. No threats were made. No arrest, no fine, no consequence. They also lied. They said he was spotted cleaning 2 cheese knives. No, he wasn't. He was not cleaning them. They didn't look like cheese knives to me. So there we have it. That's an official confirmation by the government of my state that if you carry a knife onto a train, evacuate an entire carriage, terrify all the women and children, and make everybody 30, 40 minutes late to whatever they were doing that day, whether it be work, a funeral, a doctor's appointment, or anything else, you will experience 0 consequences, and your incredibly scary incident won't be recorded in the crime stats, and you'll just be let go until you inevitably harm someone else in a serious manner. That's what we've learned today, is that police are not going to do anything until the stabbing begins. There's no prevention, there's no fines, there's no consequences at all. So thank you very much, Jacinta Allan, for being so tough on crime. I really appreciate it. I would really like to talk to you, Jacinta. I have some suggestions. I have some productive solutions. I have some ideas. I would love to suggest them to you. So far, I have been ignored by you and your staff, despite my video getting hundreds of thousands of views from Victorians who are saying the same thing. However, the opposition leader has reached out to me. Now, I've never voted Liberal in my entire life, but this violence in the city and on public transport, it's turning me into a single issue voter. So Jacinta, I would love to talk. Thank you.
Now, I've had to deal with 3 schizophrenics on Melbourne's public transport network. They were all women, though I think one of them was transgender. They were the worst, threatening to Charles Manson, their carriage, running up and down, yelling at the top of their voice. Luckily, they were only on it for 2 stations. But you also have to remember we live in a state where there's the judiciary that's been largely appointed by Labor over the past 25 years. You have a legal fraternity and you have a human rights lobby which believes that the knife-wielding maniac is the victim. The perpetrators are the victims because they've had a hard life or they're from a minority background. And you just saw with what happened to the knife-wielding maniac on Lewis Spears' train. Zero legal consequences. But don't worry, Jacinta Allan in this year's budget is going to hire 50 new PSOs. So as Lewis Spears mentioned, many of them have been redeployed to shopping centres to stop retail theft and gang fights. Of course, you at various Melbourne shopping centres, Northland and High Point and Woodville, I think in Melton, there have been machete fights. We are only 1,500 Victoria Police officers short. Victoria Police will get $62 million to recruit 200 new reservists. So, of course, they have to entice enough people who want to be Victoria Police officers. The Violence Reduction Unit, which how much violence has it been reducing so far? So this funds programs to rehabilitate young offenders. How's that going with all of these repeat offenders on bail? So that will get a $33 million top-up. The Triple O service will get a $102 million upgrade. Of course, that covers not just police, but ambulance and also fire. There'll be another $81 million to go towards responding to and preventing youth crime. $177 million for a specialised fast-track youth court list. Of course, there's a general court backlog because, well, the Victoria Police, they do make arrests and they do charge criminals, but justice is slow in Victoria, if there is justice at all, and this is why you see so many of the magistrates granting bail. And there'll be a $3 million spent to overhaul the Sentencing Act. How will it cost $3 million to write a new piece of legislation, unless they're going to be doing all that consulting? So the idea is to have the Sentencing Act actually sentence criminals to prison. So will any of this prevent more of the appalling violent crime that's happened in Melbourne this past week? Many of us have lost track on the amount of bars and nightclubs that have been set on fire. It's ambiguous about what the reason for this is. That an extortion attempt? Is there some illicit alcohol trade? None of us know, but a lot of it is happening on Chapel Street in Prahran. And if you wanted a street to be the symbol of Victoria's decline under the Andrews-Allan Labor government, Chapel Street would be it. I remember when I was a young person, Chapel Street was the street to be. It had the Jam Factory there with the Virgin and Borders mega stores, the Village Cinemas there. I remember that Zac Efron made an appearance at the Jam Factory for the Hairspray premiere. That's going back to 2007 with all the teenage girls screaming. That's how big the Jam Factory and Chapel Street was, the iconic Prahran market there. But it is literally full of hoons, and it's just derelict now. I would never go there again. Now, we had a on-duty paramedic stabbed in the neck and face at a Reservoir Cafe last Thursday. Muhammad Ali, age 32, was charged with attempted murder, intentionally causing injury and assaulting an emergency worker. He was remanded in custody. A tray was slammed in the face of a French tourist working in a cafe in Essendon on Anzac Day. She had her teeth chipped. The female offender, well, of female appearance, is still at large. Pharmacist Russell Fragman, age 65, was assaulted at his St Kilda store. A 39-year-old man was arrested. Now, police didn't turn up the day of the assault. They were busy chasing some other drug offender. Of course, there's been drug issues in Fitzroy Street, St Kilda, for many years. He and his wife said they can't afford to retire. Yesterday, in the Melbourne CBD, a 37-year-old Mill Park man was found on the corner of Collins and Elizabeth Street after being stabbed. He had life-threatening injuries. That was at 2:10 p.m. yesterday. Then there was this primary school teacher, Timothy Blamries, age 33, who's been charged with producing and possessing child abuse material after a camera was discovered in the boys' toilets over the urinals at Kingswood Primary School, which is in Melbourne's southeast, near Dingley Village. Thankfully, the magistrate, Timothy Gatsu, said he would not grant him bail because he posed an unacceptable risk that he would interfere with witnesses and destroy evidence. This was to the relief of parents who had packed the magistrate's court, the seats inside. And so he was allegedly, this teacher, he was using this video of these boys peeing and allegedly sending them to other pedophiles online. Those poor boys, and parents don't know yet if their child, their boy, their son has been a victim, because they're still going through the footage. It's absolutely heartbreaking, and do you have to say alleged evil, a breach of trust. It is absolutely the most alleged, disgusting, disturbing crime of the past week. Obviously, the assaults that I've just mentioned, they are all appalling, but to abuse a child in that way, it just makes your skin crawl and gets you all upset. Despite Victoria Police being very busy, they still have the time and resources to prosecute Jacob Herjant and Nathan Bull, and the other names are here: Michael Nelson and Ian Lomax, for booing the Anzac Day Welcome to Country last year. So we don't know if any of the booers have been charged for booing Uncle Mark Brown at the shrine this year. He was the same who Herjant, Bull, Nelson and Lomax booed last year. So Jacob Herjant, he served a month in prison for making a Nazi salute. He could be going to jail for 3 months for offensive behaviour. Now, this is what he told the mainstream media outside of court, and of course they sent a female reporter there.
yeah, you're confident in your defence?
Well, who knows if it will be successful. It's a very politicised issue, which is unfortunate. I don't think the criminal justice system should be used to enforce political orthodoxy on the population. I think this trial itself is a disgrace. We're supposed to live in a liberal democracy, but every day it's proven through trials like this that we don't live in a liberal democracy. If you go against the system, you're going to be dragged before the courts. And I've even been imprisoned. I've been put in solitary confinement for a month because I gave a political gesture. So I find it disgraceful.
Because you were found guilty and convicted of breaking the law.
For politically expressing myself. So they've brought laws against political expression.
In this state, you broke the law that you were convicted.
Yeah, and that's what I think is unjust. I think it's immoral to put someone in jail for their political views and expressing their political views. Yes, it may be against the law. I disagree with those laws. I think they're immoral.
How do you feel about there was a veteran in there today who was upset, visibly upset, a veteran today, someone who has served, by what happened at the dawn service. How do you feel about that?
He's entitled to be offended, but there is a plurality of views in the population and in the Defence Force. Some people do not like the Welcome to Country, some people do like the Welcome to Country. The point of a democracy and of a liberal democracy is that people can express their point of view and disagree without being dragged to the courts and being imprisoned for their point of view.
No one's getting imprisoned for doing. People living in prison
shouldn't be threatened.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the media. I can talk to you later.
People shouldn't be threatened and made.
You're talking to me now.
I've learned the lesson of not wasting my time with people.
Then don't waste your time. You can go down this way, can't you?
Shouldn't people be able to go to a public ceremony?
Sorry, I can't hear you over there.
Shouldn't people be able to go to a public event and feel safe, feel part of it, rather than feeling under threat? As the mother who was there today said, she felt scared for her children.
I don't think safety is the highest value. I think that being able to express yourself politically is more important than some people feeling offended or perhaps feeling intimidated or things like that.
So children feeling scared and their parents feeling scared at an important ceremony for all Australians, that's not important.
Well, what are they feeling scared about? Booing? Like, do children feel scared about
how
booing?
You were behaving.
Do children feel scared about booing at the football, for example? Why are they scared? Tell me, why are they scared?
Because of the way your behaviour was threatening towards what was happening at that solemn moment and the disrespect of that.
How was it threatening? I was expressing my disagreement with the Welcome to Country. As the defence lawyer produced, 50% of the country agrees with me. So it's actually I don't know if
50% of the country doesn't interrupt the dawn service.
They didn't because they're scared of being prosecuted and jailed. That's the very issue.
Are you hopeful that the charges will be thrown out at the end of the contest?
I don't think they're going to be thrown out. Maybe I'll be found not guilty on the offensive behaviour, hopefully, but in this political climate, I wouldn't bet on it.
Are you aware that that charge carries up to 5 years in jail?
The offensive behaviour one, it's not 5 years in jail. I think it's 3 months in jail. The grossly offensive behaviour charge has 5 years in jail, but that's a different charge from just regular offensive behaviour.
So you're prepared to go to jail again for this though?
Well, the thing about going to jail is you don't decide yourself if you go to jail, the magistrate does. I don't want to go to jail, especially for something that I don't think anyone should be jailed for. No one should be jailed for their political views and expressing their political views.
Thanks, guys.
Now, on to the federal budget, which will be delivered at 7:30 next Tuesday by the Federal Treasurer, Jim Chalmers. So next week's Snapshot News program will be coming immediately. It'll be an immediate budget reaction. But we already know a lot that is going to be in the budget, but we don't know the specifics. So we know that the Albanese government will roll back or abolish negative gearing on investment properties. So we don't know whether existing negatively geared properties will be grandfathered. So that means that grandfathering is that changes to taxation systems don't occur to investments already in that arrangement. Then there will also be a rollback in the capital gains taxation discount. So it's currently, you're taxed at 50% on a capital gain. And again, this affects investment property on housing. It doesn't apply to your primary residence, primary housing. So if, say, you make a profit on an investment property of 150,000, you'll only be taxed on 75,000, so half that. And now there's rumors that Jim Chalmers will reduce that discount to 30% or introduce inflation indexation, which was the arrangement pre-1999 when Peter Costello changed it. And there are also murmurs that they would change the taxation of trusts. Now, according to Albanese, this is about intergenerational equity, but it's more intergenerational warfare. We don't have class or gender warfare anymore, though a lot of various interest groups try. We have intergenerational warfare. So it's mainly the boomers versus the millennials. And you might remember, if you're not a Generation Z, the 2019 federal election, where Bill Shorten took a negative gearing and capital gains tax rollbacks to the election. He also wanted to change franking credits. That's where dividends, because they have company tax already applied to them. So to avoid double taxation, you get the franked dividend back, and then so you're not taxed twice at your personal income. So Bill Shorten was wanting to introduce double taxation. Now, the Albanese government is not proposing to roll back franking credits just yet, but they did go to the 2025 federal election to say they wouldn't. Well, it depends how they word it. They had no plans to change negative gearing or capital gains tax. But given that there is this energy emergency with the US and Israeli war on Iran, emergencies, they never let a crisis go to waste. And so they're basically saying that, well, circumstances have changed, and they are also aware that 7 years later, the voting demographics, the boomers are dying, and more millennials and Gen Zs, they're becoming a bigger share of the voting block. And there is it's not just on the left that there's this view about greedy boomers hoarding all of the wealth and housing. It's also on the right as well. I think I remember seeing a post, it might have been from Joel Davis, advocating for the confiscation and redistribution of the boomers' wealth. It's their fault that young couples can't find a home, and why they put off starting a family or have less children. Though I think, even though this is a broken promise, I don't think there'll be a big boomer protest like there was when Julia Gillard broker there will be no carbon tax promise. And Albanese would be buoyed by the fact that he broke his 2022 election promise to not touch the stage 3 tax cuts, and he changed them in the lead up to the Dunkley by-election here in the Frankston area and retained the seat. So he's probably thinking that, well, I broke one promise with no electoral consequences. Why not break a few more? And of course, the coalition will be opposed, but the key question is, will they reverse them when it comes to the next federal election in 2028, or will this just be old news? But again, why Albanese and Chalmers, why weren't they confident to take this to the 2025 federal election? John Howard, he previously said in 1995 a GST will never ever be part of their policy after Hewson lost the unlosable election in 1993 campaigning for a GST. He did change his mind, but took it to a 1998 federal election and said, if you like it, you'll vote for me. If you don't vote for me. And he scraped over the line. Now, despite Jim Chalmers downplaying the prospect of major cost of living relief in the budget, there will be some extra revenue from higher commodity prices triggered by the Iran war that will be banked. They've already put in the budget papers the $22 billion in projected savings from the announced NDIS reforms, even though they haven't been achieved yet. Jim Chalmers has called this responsible economic management. Now there is talk of a tax offset of $200 to $300. Now, tax offset is different to a tax deduction. Is an offset comes off your tax bill. Albanese did take to the 2025 federal election a instant $1,000 tax deduction for every Australian. No questions asked, no receipts. Of course, if you want to claim more than $1,000 in tax deductions, you will need to provide receipts. Now, what's also interesting is that Chalmers is looking to cut the electric vehicle tax breaks, which was introduced mid-2022, since the cost has blown out from 90 million to 1.4 billion this year. And obviously there's been a lot buying electric cars since the beginning of the Iran war. And of course, it's the electric cars are not cheap, and not exactly there's not really an option for tradesmen at the moment. So there has been long warnings that the subsidy favoured high income earners, as do the solar and home battery rebates. We also had on Monday the Japanese Prime Minister Sane Takaichi visiting the country, and she and Anthony Albanese, they actually signed real agreements, not the joint non-binding statements on fuel and energy security that he signed on his tour of Malaysia, Singapore, and Brunei. So the agreements promise to keep the flow of food and fuel going. So Japan is Australia's biggest LNG customer. Of course, Qatar's LNG plants were hit by Iranian missiles and are out of action for 5 years. Japan supplies refined petrol and diesel to Australia. Of course, they get that from the Middle East. And of course, Japan has been a long-time economic partner and ally of Australia. It's to us millennials and Gen Z today, it's hard for us to comprehend that the Japanese did all that brutal military expansion and were cruel to prisoners of war in World War II. Today, a lot of Australians love. There's the Japanese cars. There's the Japanese electronics. The anime, though that's seen as a bad influence on a lot of Western countries now. And of course, Japan owns all of our iconic beer now: VB, Foster's, Carlton, Draft. And nobody cares, and we're not threatened by it at all. And now Penny Wong, the foreign minister, she was in Japan last week, meeting with their foreign minister, and also went to China and South Korea. Again, a petro diplomacy tour. Obviously, China is the big country which is basically only looking after itself. It is suspended jet fuel exports for 12 months. We had interest rates increased by the Reserve Bank today to 4.35%. So it brings it to the highest that it was when interest rates were consistently raised at the beginning of 2022, because we had the inflation rate to the year ended March at 4.6%, well above the 2.3% band. And this was almost exclusively driven by the fuel crisis. So Australian Bureau of Statistics data showed a 9.2% rise in transport prices, with fuel prices up 32.8%. There could be more rate rises to come later this year. All the major supermarket chains have increased the price of their home brand milks by around about 20 cents per litre. So I buy the 2 litre, so that went from $3.20 per litre to $3.55 per 2 litres, up from $3.20. And the packaging costs of the milk bottles have also risen by 110%. I just bought a fresh loaf of Tip Top bread tonight, and it's gone up from $4.60 to $4.70. Now, even though petrol prices are down, obviously minus as well the 32 cents from the cut in the fuel excise, which expires at June. We don't know if it's going to be extended, and the state's agreeing to forgo the extra GST revenue. So unleaded petrol around the Frankston area is $1.80 per litre, with diesel around $2.50, though we have just had the Iran and the US start firing on each other's ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Again, the US blockade is continuing while Iran is firing on ships, tankers that try to get through. And an Iranian drone just hit the United Arab Emirates Fujairah petroleum industry zone, causing a large fire. So that will impact oil supply, oil production. And of course, this comes as the United Arab Emirates has left OPEC, petroleum. It's oil producing exporting countries, I think is the acronym. It's basically a cartel so the rest of the world doesn't get too cheaper petrol. So I don't know, could that be why the UAE is being punished? But the war continues to be a stalemate. But I don't think we should count on cheap petrol for indefinitely if the strait remains choked and a battlefield.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Now we had the Nepean by-election on Saturday, the 2nd of May, with the Victorian Liberals claiming victory. So it's a new Liberal candidate, Anthony Marsh, who was the mayor of the Mornington Peninsula. So he wasn't selected by the local branch members. He was selected by the Victorian Liberals Administrative Committee. And even though he'd only recently joined the party, in fact, he celebrated the election of Labor's Paul Mercurio when he won the neighbouring seat of Hastings. It's at the 2022 federal election. He has won comfortably, despite his recent Liberal Party membership. One Nation, its candidate Darren Hercus, made a massive push here in Nepean. Both Pauline Hanson and Malcolm Roberts came down to campaign. So Anthony Marsh finished on 38.5% of the primary vote, and One Nation 24.7%. The Don't Call Her a TL Climate 200 independent former ABC journalist Tracy Hutchison 21.3%, and the Greens 9.3%. Now the two-party preferred has Anthony Marsh 63.5%, and Tracy Hutchison actually finished second here, 36.5%. And this is because the Green and Legalised Cannabis Party preferences allowed her to leapfrog One Nation into second. There hasn't been any more votes counted on Saturday night. So that is a tick, a pass mark for a Victorian Liberal leader, Jess Wilson, 6 months before the state election. Of course, this seat was vacated by former Victorian Liberal Deputy Leader Sam Groth, who pulled the pin. Now, I decided not to do a live stream on Saturday night. I did notice that Avi Yemeni and Rukshan Fernando did a live stream. Of course, Avi and Rukshan followed Pauline Hanson around when she was on the Mornington Peninsula a couple of weeks ago. And Avi and Monica Schmidt, they have caused quite the media storm with their new parties. So Avi has launched the Free Palestine Party, and there is apparently going to be another new party that is going to be launching shortly, which I'll just make sure I get the name right. It's a new Islamic party called Muslim Votes Matter. Now, Monica Schmidt earlier this year announced her Environment Party. Now, these parties, because Victoria's upper house legislative council is the only upper house at the state or federal level that still has group voting tickets, where if you vote above the line, voters, they don't control the preferences. It goes to a party's group voting ticket. And Labor at the state level has used this to this advantage. There was the secret recording that Heston Russell, who created the Angry Victorians Party last state election, secretly accorded preference whisperer Glenn Jury, saying that his goal was to, through the preference, the group voting preference flows, have a crossbench that the Labor government could work with. And that's the result that occurred at the 2022 state election. So these new parties that Monica Schmidt and Avi Yemeni are creating are designed to funnel preferences to One Nation. Now, there's been a lot of outrage at the left for this manipulation of democracy, yet there was the Sack Dan Andrews party, which funneled preferences to Labor. There's also been a lot of nationalists who are criticising Avi and Monica for this, but it's actually a smart 4D chess move. You have to give them credit where it's due. So what they're hoping with all this outrage that they are generating is that Jacinta Allan is forced to abolish group voting tickets, and that upper house reform would benefit One Nation, who are polling in the low 20s. They could win a quarter of the 40 upper house seats, it is projected. So we could get a more democratic upper house. And it was when group voting tickets were used at federal elections, that's how Pauline Hanson was kept out of a Senate seat in 2001. She polled 10% in Queensland because all the parties preferenced against her, and the group voting ticket she still lost. But the first federal election where group voting tickets were abolished, the 2016 federal election, it was half the quota, but she and Malcolm Roberts were both elected on a primary vote of 8.5%. Now, this Saturday, May 9, we have the Farrer by-election. Now, it is looking like it is a two-horse race between the One Nation candidate, David Farley, and the Don't Call Her ATL Climate 200 independent, Michelle Milthorpe. There is a Paul Murray pub test on Sky News in Albury very shortly, and Michelle Milthorpe is appearing. There's none of the pollsters or the punters on Sportsbet think that the Liberal Party candidate, Rasa Perwotsky, who's an Albury councillor and a lawyer, so very square candidate for a rural seat. I actually think that the Nationals, Matt Canavan's camping there. Its candidate, Brad Robertson, who's an ADF veteran. I think the Nationals could outpoll the Liberal Party here, given just how, well, Susan Ley, I think it's fair to say she took that electorate for granted. The Nationals couldn't run against her once she won that seat in 2001. Now, it was revealed in the past week that One Nation's candidate, David Farley, who he was picked by the One Nation local members out of a contest of three. So the One Nation party, Pauline and James Ashby primarily, selected three candidates for the local branch members to vote for. They selected David Farley, on paper was a good candidate, a successful agri businessman, but now it's been revealed that, well, many years ago he was a National Party member. That's not the controversial part, but he tried to gain Labor Party pre-selection at the 2022 federal election, so not long ago, and supported the Don't Call Her a Teal independent Michelle Milthorpe at the 2025 federal election against Susan Ley. So some people are viewing him as a bit of a party shopper, and perhaps why the Liberals and Nationals are preferencing him over Michelle Milthrop. They're hoping that he doesn't last the distance until the next federal election, because that has been One Nation's Achilles heels, that a majority of their MPs elected at the state and federal level have left by the end of the term. Obviously, the most high profile have been Mark Latham and Rod Roberts in New South Wales and Sarah Game in South Australia. It should be noted that Ricky Lee Tyrrell, the One Nation MLC in Victoria, has been with the party for the full term, so she definitely gets top marks for loyalty and not developing an ego. But it's not just that which has put David Farley, his credentials as a rock solid, 100% committed to One Nation under scrutiny. It's these remarks that he made about the rate of immigration at a candidates forum at Charles Sturt University, moderated by former ABC Insiders host Barry Cassidy.
2024-2025 with 306,000. David, One Nation's talking about half that?
One Nation's talking about let's match immigration to need and demand. Let's match immigration to a housing policy, a health policy and an education policy. Let's get immigration right for Australia, first of all. We've got skills demands that are required at the moment that we're not meeting. We're in a housing crisis which has been spurred on by loose immigration policy, and we've got a health system that needs to be able to address immigration at the same time. Australia's been great at immigration, but we've just got to get better at it now.
But is 306,000 too many?
Is 306,000 too many? No, it's probably not. If we're successful in One Nation's water policies, we're going to need more labour, and we're going to need more labour quickly, skilled labour.
That's a pretty big contradiction in one of One Nation's core policies. Now, through a Facebook post, David Farley quickly corrected that he supported the party's policy. So last night I was asked if 306,000 migrants each year is too many. Yes, we're much less immigration to reduce housing demand and put Australians first. One Nation will cap immigration 130,000 per year. We need to catch up on housing services, water and infrastructure for Australians already living here. We need an immigration policy that works in our national interest, not against it. In the middle of a housing crisis, 306,000 per year is way too many. Now, does this affect One Nation's momentum going into the final week? Obviously, early voting has started. And unlike in Nepean, where it was more hype that One Nation could actually win Nepean, they are the favourite, One Nation to win Farah. Will this impact the result? Liberal and National preferences are likely to get David Farley over the line. One, as the Labor Party, it has not run in either of these by-elections in Nepean. Jacinta Allen did want to test her popularity there. And, well, Farah has been a safe coalition seat since its inception in 1949. So Labor, the only reason Labor even considered running was to funnel preferences away from One Nation. So it will be quite a significant result. Can One Nation win a lower house seat? Pauline Hanson said today in Adelaide, when she was there for the swearing in of the South Australian MPs and MLC said she may run for a lower house seat at the next federal election. She lives in the Queensland seat of Wright, currently held by the Liberal National Party's Scott Buchholz. And Barnaby Joyce, of course, hasn't ruled out running for New England again. He did say when he joined One Nation that he would run for the New South Wales Senate. And Barnaby Joyce, he said when he joined One Nation, he didn't consult his good friend, Gina Rinehart. They go back about, 15 years, their friendship. Gina Rinehart once gave Barnaby Joyce an award, which he had to give back. So Pauline Hanson last week unveiled her new sexy $1 million plane donated by Gina Rinehart. She says she can now fly out to more regional communities. That sexy plane could be flown by James Ashby, who has a pilot's license. And she confirmed a further $2 million in donations. Now, she's been attacked for this because, how can you claim that you're for the Aussie battlers when you're getting all of you're getting a plane donated by Australia's richest woman? And of course, they make the connection. She's been to Mar-a-Lago at a Trump event. And there are those get-up billboards linking Pauline Hanson to Trump. Of course, the nerve of the Teals to say this is, look at a billionaire backing One Nation. Of course, Climate 200, which backs all of the Teal campaigns, was founded by a billionaire, Simon Holmes a court. Now, of course, millions in money helps get your message out, but money itself doesn't win campaigns. Pauline Hanson has largely been successful in a shoestring budget because it's been about her way of communicating, her policies. And obviously, as I previously mentioned, you need good candidates as well. Money helps, but it doesn't win campaigns. I mean, ask Clive Palmer. His New Deal ads that won't translate to votes. He's back to his own real estate salesman with those ads. Jobs growth. Australia needs a new deal. Newdeal.au. Newdeal.au. He has that on repeat. Of course, Clive Palmer, because he was so successful in real estate, making millions, that's why he decided, you know what, I'm going to start going for mining exploration licenses.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Now, although David Farley corrected his remarks on immigration, Tony Burke, although he claims that he's getting immigration numbers down, he still spruiks the benefits of multiculturalism, diversity, and Australia's still large migration program. Now, he was on a couple of podcasts which spruiking about all of... he was on an Indian podcast saying that he wants temporary visa holders, workers to become Australian citizens, and also spruiked about that one of the Palestinian he gave a visa to could play the piano on that ABC program, the piano. And also we had his assistant immigration minister, Matt Thistlethwaite, spoke the benefits of migrants working in our hospitals.
Now, what concrete actions have been taken, and this does affect the Indian community because a number of them on temporary visas. So what concrete actions have been taken to reduce the number of people stuck in permanently temporary status?
Yeah. So there's a few changes that some things we've already done and more things that we're continuing to look at. If I start with the values that I'm trying to bring to this debate, first of all, there are lots of countries that have effectively part of their economy as guest workers who will never become citizens. I don't believe that should be the model for Australia. I believe that people who are still here, people who are going to continue to be here and are working here, should have an opportunity to become fully part of Australia's democracy. Of the fact that people can come from all around the world, very different views of a whole lot of international issues, and we get here and we just work together to build a really strong community.
And, throughout your career, could you sort of tell me what's sort of like a turning point for yourself throughout your politics career?
Look, can I tell you one that even happened last week?
Yes, please, yes.
So there's a show on the ABC.
Yes.
You can watch it on iView called The Piano. And my wife and I, we were watching it, and we got to episode 3.
Yes.
And it was a Palestinian family. And the husband, Baher, starts playing the piano and he starts talking, and he mentions that they've only recently come from Gaza.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I thought, oh, hang on. And so I did some research, I called some people, and they were one of the families that I'd given a humanitarian visa for.
Wow.
And so last week, I went down to Melbourne and I went to their home. And Baher played the piano for me in his home, and I met his wife and his 3 beautiful daughters. And we signed the paperwork, and they're all about to become permanent residents.
Wow.
And to some people who, I guess that's an example. I hadn't met him.
Pauline Hanson's running around with his slogan around cutting migration. We've just walked through the Sydney Children's Hospital, where we've met some Irish nurses who are here working in our hospital system, providing support for our kids. There's no doubt that the people that will clean the hospital tonight will be migrants. The people that will be serving the food to the kids that are sick in hospital here will be migrants. These are people that are contributing to the Australian economy. And for one nation to be saying, oh, we're just going to cut migration willy-nilly, it's going to have a dramatic effect on the skills base of this country. It'll have a dramatic effect on the care that the kids get in this community. The Premier's right. One Nation are all about slogans. There's no policy there whatsoever.
I don't think there's mass concern about Irish nurses working in our hospitals. In fact, when I was in a hospital after surgery for my varicose veins last year, pretty much all of the white nurses were Scottish or Irish. There's a lot of them in the Frankston Peninsula area and a lot of English people as well. I think a lot migrate down here because of the climate, because the British Isles are so cold, though some of them could be refugees coming away from that police state and the migrant crime that's occurring in the UK and Ireland. Now, Julian Hill, the Labor member for Bruce, he ran and hid inside a supermarket when he was confronted by Matt Trihey from the National Workers Alliance about migrant crime. This is what happened.
Social media stuff.
It's my birthday. It's a three.
Can you just answer three questions?
What's the based on? This is the future of this country. Crime rate's up. Yeah. Sexual assault.
You don't live in my electorate.
He's representing two of us.
But many of us do.
So,
and we're here together.
You're responsible for. I have family.
Yeah.
So crime is up. Sexual assault is up.
All of that. I haven't had lunch, so I'm
All
going
of
to
that. Julian, no!
Julian!
Stomach's rumbling. Julian's stomach's rumbling.
We'll pay for your lunch, Julian. No worries. Order whatever you like.
Mate, you don't even live here.
I live in this country, and you are destroying this country.
He
The political
represents
parties
me.
are destroying this country, and you are responsible. You are a coward.
Let's just wait till he comes out.
Now, we had it confirmed last week again by the Australian Bureau of Statistics. They have a lot of data that they release, which is inconvenient to government. So it showed that migrants born in India have overtaken Brits as Australia's largest source of overseas born migrants. So 32% of Australians were born overseas. So that's 8.8 million migrants. The biggest decreases have been Italian and English. There have been 2.47 migrants that have arrived in the country since Albanese took office. And so Indians, they've gone from a foreign-born group of 97,000 in 2000 to 971,000 in 2025. Now, most of them vote Labor, I think it's fair to say. And when Jacinta Price said that on the ABC last year, there was mass outrage from the Indian community and also her fellow colleagues as well. Though Peter Dutton's pitch for the Indian vote, saying that we want more Indians here, didn't win him the Indian-centric seats in Melbourne and Sydney. Now, surely Tony Burke, when he does these podcasts for these Indian-centric communities and others, is aware that they're all published online for any member of the public to view and show what Tony Burke is saying that's contradicting what he's saying publicly about reducing migration numbers.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Now, in the most horrific story of the week, so we had that search last week for Kumanjawi little baby who went missing from an Indigenous town camp near Alice Springs late on April 25, Anzac Day. There was a mass community search. A recently released convict, Jefferson Lewis, age 47, was last seen with her. And then on Thursday, a Kumanjawi little baby, her body was found 5 kilometres away on the banks of the Todd River. Now, later that night, Jefferson Lewis was arrested at another a Alice Springs town camp after being beaten unconscious by a vigilante group. Some of them, some people online have said that they should have finished the job. He was transported to Alice Springs Hospital, where there was an angry mob outside, understandably, who, well, they wanted to give him mob justice right there. I wonder if police were conflicted about protecting him. Were any of them tempted to just bring him out and say, yep, here he is, rip him from limb to limb? And now police deployed tear gas. Now, there were opportunistic rioters. A supermarket and a service station was looted. So 11 rioters have been charged over that. The next day, Jefferson Lewis had to be evacuated to Darwin and was actually excused from his first court appearance after being charged with the murder of Kumanjari little baby and 2 other offences. Now, Liberal Senator Jacinta Price, who's actually related to Kumanjari little baby, has called for a honest conversation about the future of Aboriginal town grants. She's called the alleged murder a national disgrace. Now, even though they were a colonial invention by the white man, apparently the Aboriginal industry and the cultural left believe that town camps are important for Aboriginal culture, even though she was living, Kumanjari little baby, in squalid conditions. Alcohol restrictions aren't enforced. There are a lot of ex-criminal convicts who are in there. And I certainly think that, this whole thing about that it's better for them to be in their culture, surely the protection of children, offering them the same opportunity as other Australian children in the cities, that's most important. Jacinta Price has also renewed calls for a royal commission into the sexual abuse of Indigenous children, which was a policy Peter Dutton took to the last federal election. And now she's been shut down, Jacinta Price, that now's not the time to talk about town camps because a family community's grieving and you're blaming the community. Though we need to look at the structures, the system failing, which is just code for it's the white man that hasn't provided enough funding, even though billions is spent each year, and we're not closing the gap at all. It's not more funding or repairing these town camps. It is the whole just that it's best if they're living remotely in the middle of nowhere, literally, that's apparently better for their culture, when in reality they're not getting the same opportunities that the rest of us are getting in the cities. And of course, this is not the first a horrific alleged crime against a child in the Northern Territory in remote communities. We certainly hope something will change. It has to change. And so a little baby will be the last who will die in such a town camp, because this shouldn't be happening in Australia.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Now, the Bondi Royal Commission on Anti-Semitism and Social Cohesion has begun its public hearings, and so it's hearing from Australian Jews about their experiences of anti-Semitism. And according to some witnesses, it is not just members of the National Socialist Network who've been doing Nazi salutes and saying Hail Hitler. So according to witness AAL, he described his granddaughter's substitute English teacher performing several Hail Hitler salutes in a classroom shortly after October 7, 2023. This happened at least twice with reported no repercussions. Certainly, those of us watching would find that hard to believe, that a teacher doing a Nazi salute wouldn't be disciplined, or because it's illegal now. I don't think it was illegal nationwide then, but it is now. I mean, it's basically one of the worst things that you can do in Australia at the moment is a Nazi salute. So there was a Sydney Jewish mother who said her 15-year-old daughter has seen classmates saying Hail Hitler and performing salutes along with swastikas on school grounds. A Jewish principal reported an avalanche of incidents since October 2023, including people driving past the school yelling slurs or giving Nazi salutes or gun symbols. All horrible. But again, as we have seen with Jacob Hersant being jailed for a month for giving a Nazi salute, to all of us who are viewing this stream, it's pretty much become, as I said before, it's become the most socially unacceptable and thing to do in Australia. In fact, a lot of people don't hail for a taxi or a tram or a bus anymore because they don't want to make it look like that they are performing a Nazi salute. There has been some testimony from its relatives of Bondi victims. There was the interim report by the Royal Commissioner, former High Court Justice Virginia Bell. So she found no gaps in legal or regulatory frameworks which could have impeded the ability of authorities to prevent or respond to the Bondi shooting or similar acts of terror. So again, exonerates ASIO. ASIO is basically untouchable beyond scrutiny, even though they had the younger son who's alive and is charged with the murder of those 15 Jews at Bondi on December 15th, even though he was on an ASIO watch list in 2019. ASIO basically stopped monitoring him. So they're not really having any accountability. Though there have been 14 recommendations by the Royal Commissioner, though 5 of them have been classified on national security grounds, which is, well, so much for this Royal Commission being transparent. So the recommendations that have been made public include reviews of joint counter-terrorism teams nationwide, that New South Wales police expand their police presence at all public Jewish events, and also I recommended nationally consistent gun laws and a national gun buyback scheme to be prioritised. So Albanese hasn't been able to get all of the states and territories to agree to his gun buyback. So the full commission report with findings and recommendations will be presented on December 14th.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
And that brings us to the end of WilmsFront Snapshot news program for another week. Now, as I mentioned, next Tuesday, it will be budget night. And so I will be coming on at 8 p.m. after Jim Chalmers releases his budget in full. I will be reacting to it in real time. I won't. The Unshackled doesn't have the benefit of the mainstream media who are in that budget lockout. That's why they have the graphics ready to go as Jim Chalmers announces all of his budget measures. And now I am back on Reality Check Radio's Paul Brennan's breakfast program with a Wilms report. And as you know, they are expanding into Australia with an Australian Bites newsletter, which you can subscribe to at biteme.news. Now, as I've mentioned previously, they now have a Australian host, Lisa Jane Spencer, who there was angry mainstream media articles this week because she asked One Nation Senator Malcolm Roberts when he visited the Mornington Peninsula if the Bondi attack was a false flag, and there was outrage at Malcolm Roberts' response that says that he didn't have all the facts, and he noted that a legislation was drafted pretty quickly. So I think that that made mainstream media because Malcolm Roberts didn't shut the question down immediately. Now, of course, I cannot do the Unshackled without your financial support. I am grateful to financial supporters such as Dawn Browning in the chat. So you can support us by taking out a premium membership over at the unshackled.net/membership, or you can subscribe over at the unshackled.substack/subscribe. Now, I haven't done a report from Tiger Mount with Richard Wollstonecroft in over a week. I was very busy this past week, but I've still got a couple that I recorded recently with him, which I will release, and soon I'll go up to him and publish some some fresh reports as well. So thank you so much for your company once again. Please, everyone, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Stay optimistic. Don't doom scroll. Don't doom post. Just take life as it comes. I mean, we're coming up to the third month of this Iran war and fuel crisis, and the worst hasn't happened yet. So that is good, but there's still no resolution. But best week, with a lot of us have done our best to get by, and I think that's the spirit. So good night, everybody. I will see you at the same time the following Tuesday. Again, I've got to be careful how I'll say that now that the show's on a Tuesday. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to WilmsFront. Visit timwilms.com to view the archive of episodes, and keep visiting the unshackled.net to view all our shows, and to keep up with the latest real news and analysis.